welcome to the Wizard of Radical Self-Respect. My name is Jared Mello. Today, we're going to go over a very important question: the difference between an a-hole and a narcissist. And this is a question that is one of the most important philosophical questions of our day. It's something that Confucius, Socrates, Plato, Marcus Aurelius, they pondered this question in deep thought for many, many hours, and I don't think they even came up with an explanation even half as good as what I'm about to give you right now, the Wizard of Radical Self-Respect. And in fact, I came up with a new diagnosis, the diagnosis of an a-hole. And let's break that down. I think the diagnosis of an a-hole is someone that consistently does a-hole behaviors consistently over time. And if you do enough a-hole behaviors consistently, you will be considered an a-hole, a diagnosed a-hole. We're going to have to get in touch with the DSM here. They're going to come to me and say, oh yeah, you came up with the diagnosis for a diagnosed a-hole. We got to get this peer reviewed here too. But what are a-hole behaviors? A-hole behaviors are something that fit three criteria, almost always: extremely selfish, rude and obnoxious, and inconsiderate of other people's emotions and feelings. Any behavior that you can think of that you would say, that was an a-hole thing to do, it's because it was extremely selfish, rude and obnoxious, or inconsiderate of someone's feelings and emotions, etc. I challenge you to think of something that isn't in those kinds of regards. So let's see. Let's go over it. Cheating. Is that an a-hole thing to do? I say yes, because it's an a-hole behavior. Cheating is extremely selfish, it is rude, and it is inconsiderate of someone else's feelings and emotions. So it checks. That's an a-hole behavior. If someone cheats enough and consistently over time, that could mean someone is an a-hole, a diagnosed a-hole. And all it takes is doing one a-hole behavior consistently to be a diagnosed a-hole. That's another important distinction to make here too. What's another one? How about leading someone on about your intentions in a relationship? Is that an a-hole behavior? I say yes, and let's explain why. I think it's extremely selfish to do so. It's rude and obnoxious to do so, and is inconsiderate of someone else's feelings. And if you do that enough, that is an a-hole behavior that could lead to a diagnosis of being an a-hole if you do it enough. How about lying? And lying's an interesting one because there's ways to be an a-hole, I believe, telling the truth. But I think for the most part, lying is an a-hole behavior, but not always. There are lies that can be told without malice that wouldn't meet all of the criteria. I wouldn't say they would be inconsiderate of someone else's feelings. If anything, it could be the opposite. It could be considerate in some ways to tell a lie. But we're going to get to the limits of that in the brutal honesty section. But for most lies, they are extremely selfish to tell, and they can be rude or obnoxious, but not always. And lies also will be inconsiderate of someone else's feelings. So it's a borderline a-hole behavior, but mostly is an a-hole behavior. It will depend on the situation, I would say. So a liar that consistently lies, is that a diagnosed a-hole? I would say yes. Now, people can also be an a-hole with the truth as well. And what makes them an a-hole with the truth, or at least doing an a-hole behavior, is they can be extremely selfish, rude, and obnoxious, and inconsiderate with the truth. They will tell brutal truths in a brutal way, and that's what makes it inconsiderate. Because you can tell brutal truths for someone you care about's good, but you will then also be careful with your delivery. But when you're not careful with your delivery, then you're being more selfish and rude and obnoxious, and that's also inconsiderate. So a brutal truth is an a-hole behavior if delivered in a rude and obnoxious way, because then that would also make it extremely selfish and inconsiderate. But let's ponder another question here. How about telling a kid that Santa Claus isn't real. That is a brutal truth, yes. And it's inconsiderate, yes. And it's rude and obnoxious, yes. But it's telling the truth. But there's no reason to tell that lie. That's an selfish lie to tell. It's a rude lie to tell. And it's inconsiderate of that kid's feelings. That's why that, even though it's the truth, is a way to be an a-hole as well. How about taking advantage or exploiting others? Extremely selfish, check. Rude and obnoxious, check. Inconsiderate, check. What else would apply? Stealing. Like maybe stealing from a family member. Extremely selfish, check. Rude and obnoxious, check. Inconsiderate, check. And again, any of these behaviors, if done consistently enough, you can be a diagnosed a-hole from doing any of these behaviors consistently enough. Because I do think the criteria to be a diagnosed a-hole should be less than the criteria of other kinds of personality disorders. I think. But I'm open for pushback on that part as well. Now, how do narcissists... maybe I'll do one more example of an a-hole behavior. Say you're in a relationship with somebody. They ask you to save the last of some chips for them. Oh, they were looking forward to eating them. But then you eat them instead. And your partner comes home and there's no chips there. And they're like, what the heck's going on here? Where are the chips? But the partner ate the chips. Is that an a-hole behavior? Is it selfish? Check. Is it rude or obnoxious? If they explicitly asked you to save them, yes. Is it inconsiderate of their feelings? Yes. So that kind of behavior is an a-hole behavior. Done enough and frequently enough over time, you could be a diagnosed a-hole. What a terrible affliction to be dealt, the diagnosed a-hole label. Now, how do narcissists come into play here? And I think 4 traits of a narcissist will often make someone do many a-hole behaviors. And the 4 are the sense of entitlement, sensitivity to criticism, a sense of superiority, and a need for attention, admiration, and acknowledgement, which is supply. Those 4 traits, when acted out upon, will cause people to do many a-hole behaviors, whether it's cheating, lying, taking advantage of others, etc., leading people on. So a narcissist is doing many a-hole behaviors. If done consistently enough, they will also be a diagnosed a-hole. And like I said, though, I think a diagnosed a-hole should be less severe than a diagnosed personality disorder. Because I think this will also be a good distinction, though, too. Because in my haters' defense, there are people who will say, yeah, the word narcissist is being thrown around too much. It's making it seem less important and less powerful. And if you use it too frequently, it begins to lose its meaning. To which, I don't think that's all wrong. I think there can be some truth in that. And I think if you have a diagnosis of a diagnosed a-hole, that is someone that maybe does some of the behaviors of a narcissist occasionally, but wouldn't be a full-blown narcissist. I think that can exist. But what I don't think will exist is a diagnosed narcissist who is not also a diagnosed a-hole by my criteria. Someone who does behaviors that are extremely selfish, rude or obnoxious, and inconsiderate consistently over time. Can you name a narcissist or show me a narcissist who doesn't do that? And thinking things is one thing. People can think anything they want, but it's the actions that matter. People can think a-hole things, but unless you do them, that's not an a-hole behavior. So you can't be a diagnosed a-hole from your thoughts. Just like you can't really be a diagnosed narcissist from just your thoughts. You can feel those things, but unless you act out upon them, I don't think you would get a diagnosis. And most narcissists, though, they're not going to have just those mental thoughts without acting out on them in some way. Because it wouldn't really be too intrusive to their lives at that point if they didn't act out on them. But that's my breakdown here of this. I don't know if you're getting what I'm saying here, but let me go over it again. A-hole behaviors are things like lying, cheating, taking advantage of others, being very greedy with food or money or something else. And if you do those kinds of behaviors enough, I can give you the diagnosis of an a-hole. And narcissists, because of their sensitivity to criticism, sense of superiority, their need for admiration and supply, and what's the other one that I forget to say? Sense of superiority, entitlement, that's the other one. Because of those four, they will do many a-hole behaviors. And usually those behaviors will be enough, if not always, to be a diagnosed a-hole as well. That's the difference here. And I think it's a very good distinction to make, because there are some people that maybe someone will say, that's a narcissist, that's a narcissist. But maybe it's just a diagnosed a-hole. Maybe it's just someone that does some of those behaviors I just talked about, but don't meet the criteria for NPD. Maybe they're not doing all of those things, and they wouldn't be a diagnosed narcissist, but they cheat. And just because someone cheats all the time and is a diagnosed a-hole does not make them a narcissist. There could be many reasons why they are. Maybe it's just emotional immaturity. Maybe they're struggling with addiction. Maybe they're borderline. Maybe they're a psychopath. That's even worse. But there's many reasons why people can be doing a-hole behaviors. Maybe they're just childish. That's also a possibility too. But I think this is important here because there is layers to this. Not everyone's a full-blown narcissist. But I do believe narcissism is on a spectrum. I do believe that as well. But that's where I draw the line here. And I hope my forefathers of Plato, Socrates, Marcus Aurelius, Herodotus, and Confucius would look down on me and say, you know what, Jared? That's a great breakdown there of the difference between an a-hole and a narcissist. And I think the difference is a-holes are not always narcissists. But I challenge anyone to show me a narcissist who is not a diagnosed a-hole. I'll wait. You can comment in the comment section about it, but I don't think you're going to find it. But an a-hole is someone who consistently does a-hole type behaviors, and an a-hole type behavior is something that is extremely selfish, rude or obnoxious, and inconsiderate. And I challenge anyone, because this is the peer-reviewed part of this here, what's the behavior that's an a-hole behavior that does not fall into extremely selfish, rude or obnoxious, and inconsiderate? I'll wait for that too. I don't think I'm going to find it though. But every behavior that I would say is an a-hole behavior has one or all of those elements to it. So those are my thoughts here on the a-hole versus narcissist philosophical question. I think it actually, in all seriousness, even though this is kind of a silly video, but in all seriousness, it is good to have a step between a diagnosed a-hole and someone who's just a little immature, and then the diagnosed narcissist. And I do think that will help people, because there are people who are just diagnosed a-holes. They are not full-blown narcissists. I think that's a thing. But most, if not all, narcissists will be diagnosed a-holes. And part of the reason why I made this video is because I want to keep things more lighthearted here in the future. Having fun in recovery and healing. What is life if not for that? And it's been reported that Winston Churchill said when his parliament came to him during World War II, and they said, should we cut our art and music funding in favor of the war effort? And Winston Churchill said, then what are we fighting for? And I'm like, yes, that's what recovery and healing should be all about. We're supposed to have some fun. We're supposed to have some entertainment and some laughter. And I think videos like this can do it. I think it's helpful. Just watching more comedians too, I think that's humongous. I'm all for doing that as well. But if you got this far, please remember to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I do have a Patreon that I'm going to start including some stuff on there too, but it would be awesome if people joined that as well. Like the video if you liked it. Share in the comment section below your thoughts. Do you think my diagnosis of a-hole is accurate? Do you think my criteria for it is accurate? Do you think there's such a thing as a narcissist who wouldn't be a diagnosed a-hole? I don't think so, but I'm open to being wrong. You can comment that in the comment section too. And maybe share this video with others, with someone that you think might benefit from hearing it. And with that, thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.